Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and last week I was in San Diego, 2023 Chevy Colorados. We have the Trail Boss, we have the Z71, we have the ZR2, which is not at that drive. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to drive that. Work truck and LT, and one of the big questions from this drive was my fuel economy? And I really hesitated putting the video and actually put it on our website, pickuptrucktalk.com. And I got 15 miles per gallon, and I told people in that story, do not take that to heart. That is not even going to be close to accurate. If that truck gets 15 miles per gallon, I'll bet you $1,000 it doesn't, because that is such a ridiculous number. And whenever you see these first drive programs, when you see a fuel economy number, you should just ignore it. Just toss it away, because we're doing burnouts. We're driving as fast as we can. We're going off-road. We're idling. We're just letting the thing run, and we're not resetting the trip odometer most times in these cases. So the number is not even close to being accurate. But I had a guy who commented who actually canceled this Colorado order based on my 15 mile per gallon number. And I'm like, guys, settle down. So in this video, let's go ahead and talk about what the fuel economy numbers are probably going to be. What's the accurate number? And before I get to that, let's go ahead and understand that the EPA numbers are still coming. So what happens here is automakers will send an assortment of self-tested EPA numbers for their trucks, and then they'll send in like maybe one truck EPA can test out to verify those numbers. And that takes a period of time, but automakers can't hold up production, and plants building new vehicles and suppliers and transportation and employees and all this stuff for the EPA number. They have to get these trucks out because they have a whole development cycle that happens when you build these vehicles. So let's go ahead and talk about what these numbers are probably going to be. And so that way, when you're out there shopping, you can have basically a ballpark of what you're going to get into when you get into this Chevy Colorado. So I want to start with this story here. It's on carandriver.com. That was about a year ago. Car and Driver got told by Chevrolet that even though the numbers have yet to be published, that the 2.7 is roughly the same as last gen 2.5 liter pickups, 19 city and 25 highway EPA rating. Now that's their estimate at the moment. It could be a little bit better, a little bit worse, whatever. And we're going to talk about why it might be a little worse. So if you go, not open a tab, but if you go to the Chevy Silverado, that 2.7 turbo is the same engine. Basically, what engineering told me, roughly the same engine in the Silverado that's in the Colorado. There's maybe a little hardware changes, little tuning changes, but overall it's roughly the same engine. So in this case, we can see 19 city, 22 highway for two-wheel drive, drops 1 for four-wheel drive, and 18 and 21 because you have heavier hardware and heavier truck. And we have 17 for the Trail Boss and 18 four-wheel drive for the Trail Boss. And that's because off-road tires, lift, all that kind of stuff. It's physics, guys. I mean, if you've ever been on a forum and some guy says, hey, I put a lift on my truck and I put new tires and I added this, and this, I'm not getting the same fuel economy. The first response is always, well, take all that crap off, and there you go. You make the fuel economy. But I want to get back to one other thing in this chart. The specification charts is for the 2023 Silverado, and it's right down here. And I want to look at curb weight. So base curb weight on the 2.7 regular cab is 4,400 pounds, 4410. Double cab, crew cab. So crew cab 4740 for two-wheel drive, and the 5-foot, 8-foot box. The four-wheel drive is 4950. And why does that matter? Well, when it comes to fuel economy, it's about physics. You have how heavy the object is, how much propulsion you're going, how efficient that propulsion is going to be going, and how efficient the vehicle is going to be going. So we have a vehicle that's a little bit smaller than the Silverado, but not by much. Aerodynamic profile of a brick on wheels. And so really curb weight makes a pretty big difference. If we look at the 2022 Chevy Colorado, we can see that fuel economy numbers, a 19 for the i4 and the 25 for the highway. But I want to get to this. This is the specification chart. This is specification chart for the 2023 Chevy Colorado. If you look at curb weight, we have 4,716 pounds for the work trail or WT and LT, 4971 for Trail Boss and Z71, and 5298 for the ZR2. So let's go back to this and look at we got the 6.6 box. So every variation of Silverado in the 2.7 is going to be lighter than the Colorado is in the ZR2. The four-wheel drive here, 4950, that's pretty consistent with what we saw in the specifications for the Colorado. I don't know if I can see the ZR2. It is the Yeah, right here. 5550 for the ZR2 with a 6.2 liter V8. And the Colorado is 5298. So not much difference in weight. So if you're looking at this number, thinking to yourself, this will get better, it'll get better than this, we get close to the turbo diesel. Man, I'm not seeing it because the weight isn't that much difference. And I don't recall if this has curb weight on this chart. Let's scroll down and see. And this is, yeah, so this is a prior generation. Again, this is a 22 model. The curb weight doesn't even come close. 4655 is the biggest curb weight I can find in the Z71. So that ZR2 curb weight should be curb weight 5.2, 5.5 foot box. It's got to be somewhere in here. Here we go. Yes. The curb weight is over, that's curb weight 4488 or 4748 is your heaviest on that truck. So the new Colorado is significantly heavier than the prior gen Colorado, which I think is very interesting. And because it's heavier because of the Trail Boss, Z71, and ZR2 all have additional off-road gear. And so I don't see this truck coming in at these weights that weigh more than prior generation. But now you have a small displacement turbo, which really gets impacted, in my opinion, by weight, by temperature, by wind direction. Really, small displacement twin turbos really get impacted by that. So you definitely could see it going back to here where I'm sorry, let me go back to the right one, the right page. But you can see 19 and 25 in two-wheel drive for the LT and WT. So it's interesting that people would say, hey, why is the fuel economy better, in the smaller truck? Well, the smaller truck weighs more and the smaller truck has more off-road gear. And there's nothing about the smaller truck that's actually made for fuel economy. Now, interestingly enough, I thought, let's go to Ford, because Ford actually offers, guess what? They offer a small displacement V6 in this case instead of four banger. People keep, I think what's interesting is people keep talking about V6 versus four banger, and you got to ignore that. These are twin turbo engines. It doesn't really matter about that anymore because it's just these turbos have made a big difference. And so in the F-150, we can see 20, 26, 22 combined. And the four-wheel drive, we can see 19, 24, and 21, which I think is interesting because if you look at the Ford Ranger, which I can only find numbers on fueleconomy.gov, the Ford Ranger has 21, 26, 23, and that is in a two-wheel drive with their 2.3 liter. That is a turbocharged engine as well with a 10-speed automatic transmission. So the best that the Ford Ranger does is 26. That's the best the Ford Ranger does. In the Tremor, it's 19, 19, 19, which would seem to me to be about the case you're going to happen, which that should be lower in city, but it seems to me that's a ZR2. ZR2 range will be in the 18, 19 range, right? And then you get the work truck, you're probably looking at mid-20s for highway. Not quite as good as a Ford Ranger because the Ford Ranger, look at curb weight, the Ford Ranger weighs a lot less, even in the Tremor, than any of the Colorados weigh less. So I'm going to guess at least 1 mile per gallon less than the Ford Ranger in fuel economy because of the weight of the Colorado. And looking at the fuel economy numbers there, that's where you're getting. So I could see 19 to 25 in two-wheel drive for the work truck trim and the LT with the lower weight limit. But if you move up the Trail Boss, move the Z71, you're going to see some things there. And then the ZR2 will probably be below 20 on combined fuel economy. And it's interesting because when I talked to the engineering team, they made the point that the diesel for them, the 2.7 turbo gets the same torque output that the diesel did. And I'm like, that's fantastic. But you're dropping 5 miles per gallon. You're going from what could have been a class leading fuel economy to something that is definitely not going to be class leading. I have low expectations for best in class fuel economy. I have it set up more for off-road performance. And I'm going to think that work truck will even have less fuel economy than the LT because the work truck doesn't have all the same hardware inside of it. It has lower tune to allow it to have better reliability, but you can't, for example, you can't take the turbo from the work truck and actually go turbo plus and the turbo high output because the turbo doesn't have the same hardware in it, like piston squirters inside the cylinders to get better horsepower and torque. You gotta go turbo plus, turbo high output, and nothing about this is talked about fuel economy. And it's interesting because in all of the Chevrolet press materials, they never once talked about fuel economy. They never talked once about losing weight either, making it lighter. So what's that tell you? It's not gonna be that good. So there's gonna be a lot of conversation online going, well, hey, if I'm going to get the same fuel economy I'm going to get in the Colorado that I'm going to get Silverado, why not go Silverado? Even though Silverado is cost about $10,000 more when you do price it out, when I've done the pricing out, and the size of Silverado is really not comparable. And a lot of people are buying mid-size trucks because of size, fits in the garage, parking, trails, fits better in trails than they are Silverado. But it's definitely, I'm going to see a lot of people creating that debate on what to do. But yeah, those are my kind of unofficial best guesses on numbers. Put your comments down below. Do you think you'll do better than what 25 would be? And do you think the Silverado or the numbers I showed you were inaccurate? I think the ZR2 will get about 25 fuel economy highway. I doubt it, but maybe it will. Maybe somewhere crystal ball, and maybe they'll have something, coming out later. Maybe a hybrid version later. I never see a plug-in hybrid because it doesn't work. It's too heavy. It's too inefficient. You lose payload, lose towing when you do a plug-in hybrid truck. Personally, when we've seen the Grand Cherokee and we've seen the Grand Wagoneer, or Grand Cherokee and the Wagoneer, when they do the 4xe version, you just lose so much capability of towing and hauling and stuff when you do that. So I can see them making more sense in a mid-size truck where you're going to even have more bigger impacts and plug-in. So I can see a hybrid later as far as a fuel economy version, but currently, it's not going to be something that's going to be a wow factor in my opinion. But we should see the numbers in another couple weeks or so. I just want to put this information out there because it's been a big topic of conversations right now online, and I figure I better get it out here for you guys as you guys are making decisions and placing your orders. Make sure you know as much information that I have. So I got. Check out other videos over here, website down below, pickuptrucktalk.com. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you down the road.